Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. This is Mr. Middlepath, and it's been a while since I posted. Just want to say that I was in Egypt for a while, saw some awesome things. I hadn't seen my family in like 10 years, guys. This was the first time I've been to Egypt in 9 years, actually. Not 10, 9 years. And we went and saw the citadel of Salah ad-Din. We went and saw the Egyptian Military History Museum. We went to the Red Sea, like awesome stuff. And going to see family was such a wonderful like experience. Although it was very stressful because we weren't there for that long. We kept traveling from city to city, but alhamdulillah, man, it was good to see the place. And this ties in with all of my political analysis that I'm doing because I want to go over a little bit like what's going on in Egypt, right? Also, one of the reasons I didn't post because when we came back, we all got sick, like super, super sick. But anyways, what's going on in Egypt? Just to give you guys kind of like an understanding of the situation in Egypt right now. Last time I went 9 years ago, I went to go get some rotisserie chicken. You know that grilled charcoal chicken that like turns in the fire like that, and you go and buy the whole chicken and it has the rice in it and it's so good, man. And back then it used to be 35 Egyptian pounds, and $1 was about 15 Egyptian pounds. So we're talking like $2.50 for rotisserie chicken. I went this year, like a month ago, and I saw that beautiful grilled chicken just rolling in that fire, and I was asking the street vendors like how much for a chicken. He looks at me and says 350 Egyptian pounds. Keeping in mind, guys, that $1 is 50 Egyptian pounds now. So we're talking $6.50 to $7.50 for rotisserie chicken, back from what it was to $2.50 9 years ago. So that's a huge jump in price. The average person can't afford that. Everything now is like 10x, 20x, sometimes even 30x of the price. And I'm talking about simple things, including food. So there's a lot of negative sentiment going on in Egypt right now. It's not easy for the people, right? Plus, we have what's going on in Rafah right now, where the Egyptian military sees that Israelis going into so close to the Egyptian border is a red line. So long as Sisi is in charge, probably nothing is going to happen. But based on the way things are going, I have to be very careful with how I word this. I don't see Sisi being in charge for that long. It doesn't seem realistic to me to think that he's going to last for longer than a year in office. This is just my thoughts on the matter, and you can take it or leave it. But I don't think Sisi is going to last that long, guys. The situation in Egypt is not that good. And apparently, before I even went to Egypt, the actual price of $1 to the Egyptian pound was 1 to 70, not even 1 to 50. And what had happened was the United Arab Emirates invested a lot of money into a place called Ras Al Hikmah, which is on the west side of Egypt, near Libya, on the Mediterranean Sea. And that was the excuse. But the reality is they pumped a lot of money back into the Egyptian economy. So it went from $1 to 70, and then it went down from $1 to 50. So a little bit better, but pretty bad compared to the average trend. And we're talking about the Egyptian budget, right? The Egyptian budget, yearly budget, 50% of that budget is borrowed money. So how can you function like that? Plus what's happening in the Suez Canal, with all the Suez Canal revenue being affected by what the Yemenis are doing, right, in the Red Sea. So it's a big deal what's going on in Egypt. Now, the UAE and Saudi and all these people that give Egyptians money, the Egyptian government money, they require good relationships with Israel because the Americans support Saudi and UAE against Iran. Saudi and UAE see Iran as an existential threat to them. So they give money to Egypt because Egypt also supports these governments as well. However, Egypt does not see Iran as an existential threat and has semi-friendly relationships with them. Who they do see as an existential threat is the Israelis. So now you have a clash of interests. Does the Egyptian government listen to Saudi Arabia and the UAE, leave Israel alone so that Saudi and UAE can have good relations with America? Or does the Egyptians say, we don't care what the Saudis and the UAE people want, we want to take care of the Israelis here because they're a problem for us and they're going to cause even more problems. And this was a problem even during Hosni Mubarak's time. Benjamin Netanyahu visited Hosni Mubarak and said, hey, can we move all the Palestinians into the Sinai Peninsula? And said, dude, if you do that, you're going to start another war with us. And I know a lot of people don't like Egypt, and they'd have a good reason to not like the Egyptian government for all of the human rights violations and everything that they've been doing, and which is obvious. Like, I don't need to make a video about that. You guys already know. Most of you guys who are watching my channel already know all of the list of the reasons why people don't like the Egyptian government. However, that being said, even at the height of the dictatorial nature of the Egyptian regimes, they still fought with Israel 3 wars, right? So the possibility that they'll fight a 4th war is still there, regardless of how self-serving and corrupt the government is. That doesn't mean that fighting is off the table, at least not in this case, right? However, still, I say as long as Sisi's in power, war is not going to happen. But that's not to say that Sisi will stay in power, because he's screwed no matter what he does. If he listens to the UAE and Saudi Arabia, he makes his population angry with him, and the elites and the hardliners within the Egyptian government themselves, who actually see Israel as a threat and want to do something, he's going to make them mad at him. And if he does go to war, he's going to make the UAE and the Saudi Arabians, who the government owes a lot of money to, angry with him. So either way, he's screwed, right? There's a lot going on here. So again, I don't see him lasting that long. As for like what's going on in Rafah right now, because I want to make a video on Rafah. I've talked to people who are involved with the charity organizations and so forth, and basically what's going on is there's a tax that all these trucks pay to the Egyptian government going in. So the Egyptian government makes its money off the trucks going in. But then also the humanitarian organizations that are supposed to distribute the aid in Rafah, so once it gets into Rafah, the humanitarian organizations don't actually distribute it for free. They sell it back to the Palestinians. So and there's no way I can prove this, guys. You either gonna believe me or you don't, because even when I asked for proof, the guy talking to me was like, look, I can't really give you proof or share anything with you like evidence. And the people that I know that I talked about this can't share evidence either, because they're worried that if evidence comes out against these human rights organizations that are doing these things, that they might stop the flow of aid entirely. So they keep their mouths shut and they say this is better than no aid going in at all. So let me just go back to explaining the situation. 80% of it gets sold back to the Palestinians. 20% of it gets actually distributed for free the way it's supposed to. So what some aid organizations do is they actually buy back the food that was supposed to be distributed. They buy it back so that it can be distributed again. So imagine you're an aid organization that actually wants to do good. You're essentially buying it twice. You're buying it once so that it can go into Rafah, and then you're buying it again in Palestine so that it can be distributed, because people are selling it. Another important thing that I forgot to mention was the prices of food in Rafah themselves. To give you an example, before the war, the price of a kilo of salt was 50 cents. So a kilo is like 2.2 pounds for those of you who are in America. So a kilo of salt was 50 cents, American dollars, like half a dollar. After the war started and all this stuff is popping off, right now a kilo of salt is $7. So just to give you an idea of what's going on. So generally speaking, a lot of money that's being sent to Gaza and stuff that's being sent to Gaza isn't even like goods coming through the border. It's just people sending money so that they can buy what was supposed to be distributed in the first place. So there's a lot of shady stuff going on, and the Palestinians are suffering a lot because of this, and it's hard to find good organizations. And as a matter of fact, some organizations, all they focus on isn't actually getting food into Rafah, like buying it in Egypt and getting it into Rafah. What they focus on is on buying it in Palestine from vendors so that it can be distributed for free. So it's a very bad situation there. Anything else going on? We have a lot going on in Africa, guys. We have a lot going on in Iran, obviously, a lot of activity. But I think those are videos for another time. It's really hard for me to focus on all these different events going on around the world, and this video will get too long. But what we have to know is that there's a lot of destabilization in Africa right now. In Iran, it seems to be the case that Iran wants to make moves on Syria and Iraq and consolidate its power that way, while using the situation in Palestine as kind of like a cover for it. So we'll have to make another video on that later. Comment down below actually if you want me to make a video on Africa, and if you want me to make a video on Iran. Assalamu alaikum everyone, take care.